This is Lexus Game Day on KPIX 5.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dennis O'Donnell. Game Day tonight on location from my living room in San Francisco. The curtain comes down on The Joe Show. Cam Inman joining the show tonight to talk Joe Staley and the 49ers. And the San Francisco shoeshiner who 30 years ago had the chance to fight Evander Holyfield. That story is coming up. First, Vern Glenn on the 49ers draft.
All right, Dennis, the 49ers, they got to keep that freight train of winning going. And in order to make it back to the Super Bowl and that unfinished business, you can't rebuild. You just got to reload.
I feel very fortunate and very happy for the Niners today.
As well, Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers should, with 2 first-round picks. Is 6'6" Javon Kinlaw a younger sample size of DeForest Buckner as a defensive disruptor? He's anxious to see as the 14th overall pick.
I was watching DeForest since he was coming out of college. So, I know he started off as a raw player, and he developed into a monster, So I feel like once I could get that type of coaching, I could probably be somebody, that was like him.
Kinlaw joins fellow South Carolina Gamecock Deebo Samuel. He says he's 100% ready to go. No issues with reported knee tendonitis. Addressing needs cost the 49ers a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round pick. That's the price to pay to move 6 spots to take wideout Brandon Ayuk.
He has on tape that he can run every single route, and he can do it outside the numbers and he can do it inside the numbers.
I take a lot of pride in my yards after the catch.
You put the ball anywhere in the area code, and he will make that play.
For the Emmanuel Sanders playmaker replacement, this just seemed right. Here is his picture wearing 49ers swag as a 4-year-old.
My mom's been a huge 49ers fan her whole life, so that kind of bled on me a little bit when I was younger.
After a dark Friday, the 49ers got busy Saturday. Lost tackle Joe Staley, who retired after 13 seasons, and is a huge loss in the 49ers locker room.
You always knew when to pick me up, and you always knew the right thing to say. You always knew how to get me going on the football field, and I'll always thank you for that.
Really hard on us when we had to realize that he wasn't going to play this year, but talking to the man, knowing the person, knowing his family, he's no doubt making the right decision, what's best for his health and his future.
Not even an hour later, traded with Washington for tackle Trent Williams, which stirred this old dust-up with Richard Sherman. This after a 2013 playoff loss to the Seahawks. Even owner Jed York weighed in on Twitter with a, "You'll love Richard Sherman as a teammate." And Sherman's olive branch tweet, "I'm gonna need a rematch." The Niners traded Matt Breida to the Dolphins for a 5th rounder. An injury-plagued wideout Marquise Goodwin to the Eagles for a 6th rounder. That allowed some depth in adding offensive lineman Colton McKivitz in the 5th round from West Virginia, tight end Charlie Werner from Georgia in the 6th round, and wideout Jawan Jennings in the 7th round from Tennessee. A lot of movement, but that's business.
Thanks, Vern. Joining us now from his home, Cam Inman, Bay Area News Group, 49er beat writer. And Cam, first off, Joe Staley, were you surprised that catch 49ers media, those who covered the team, off guard?
Well, we were so far into the offseason, I think we were expecting that he was going to come back and play. At the end of last season, after that Super Bowl loss, the vibe was that this was going to be it for Joe. And then all indications that we were getting from the 49ers were that they were encouraged Joe wanted to come back. Even John Lynch said so on Monday of draft week, and then things changed over the next couple of days when they got word from Joe that he was retiring. 13-year career, first-class service for the 49ers. The fact that they were able to go in and get Trent Williams to slide right in, I think those pieces fell into place wonderfully for them. But as long as Trent Williams can uphold the standard that Joe Staley set, greatest left tackle in 49ers history, Dennis, one of the best players ever to wear a 49er uniform.
I'm wondering if Joe's retirement announcement, that came after the trade with Washington. Do you think Staley's retirement was conditioned in his mind on whether the 49ers got a suitable replacement?
I don't necessarily think so, because he had so many health issues this past year. And I think we're all in a different world right now, Dennis, where you kind of check your priorities in life. And I think Joe, he's got 2 young daughters that he's raising with his wife, Carrie. And I think that was probably obviously more the prevailing sentiment there with him. The Niners, they could have drafted an offensive tackle on Thursday. They knew by Thursday that Joe was going to retire.
Looking at the draft overall, Javon Kinlaw is, by all accounts, at least from what I read, NFL ready. How did you grade that pick?
Right now it's an A because it's obviously one of the biggest needs on the team. They traded away DeForest Buckner, who had got to an all-pro level. They got a first-round draft pick in return from him. They immediately flipped it for his successor in Kinlaw. What surprised me about the pick, Dennis, and I know that was a big hole to fill, was this is 5 of the last 6 years they've used that top pick on a defensive lineman. And, in today's NFL, you wonder, well, it's so offensive, but that's how Kyle Shanahan said he thinks, the way John Lynch says they think, is they want a dominant defensive front, and it paid off last year and got them into the Super Bowl.
Brandon Ayuk surprised some 49er faithful from the things I read. What does he have in skill set to complement what's already on the roster? And did that pick surprise you, given other receivers still on the board?
He's a 6-foot wide receiver. That seems like so many guys on this roster over the years for Shanahan are all the 6-foot wide receiver. What Shanahan fell in love with him was that he can play all these different positions. He can be very versatile. They're expecting Brandon Ayuk to come in and play the role that Emmanuel Sanders did so well the second half of last season to get them into the playoffs.
You can argue that they needed a defensive lineman, but a cornerback was a significant need on this roster. Why didn't they choose a cornerback, not in the first 2 rounds, obviously, but the later rounds of the draft?
Well, I think there's a couple things at play here. I think number one, they decided that a better defensive front is more important than a better defensive secondary, right? They want to get to the passer faster. I like that idea too. The other thing is the top 2 cornerbacks were already off the board by the time it got to the 49ers pick, Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson, right? Those guys were gone. They went to the Lions and Jaguars. So the Niners, obviously, a cornerback, you don't really want to use a high pick for a cornerback. They don't often work out.
What's the next step for the league?
I mean, right now what they're doing is they're going to be opening up the off-season program virtually, where guys can watch classroom stuff with their coaches and go over game film and get whatever workouts that their training staff can put together. And then we're in a holding pattern, Dennis, just like all of America is right now, just to find out when is it going to be safe. That's going to be the prevailing aspect of when is it going to be safe to get everybody back.
Hey, Cam, I appreciate it. We'll see going forward how the 49ers fared in the draft. I appreciate taking the time.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate it.
And head on game day, Vern is back with the look at how the Raiders did this weekend. And just ahead, a look back at a shoe shiner from San Francisco who was thrust into the heavyweight boxing universe.